Welcome to my interview with Father William. In this video, he talks about the Boxer Rebellion, the history of the Church, and the Communist Revolution in China. Thank you for being with us. Built by a Chinese?
The history of the Church, of the Catholic Church in Taiwan is a little different. In 1949,
Yes.
when Chiang Kai-shek came, from mainland China, he brought 800 priests along.
Wow, 800?
800.
Wow.
Before that, there were only 10 priests in Taiwan. So in one day, it jumped from 10 to 800.
Wow.
So it's an extraordinary story.
Yeah.
So one of the priests, two of them actually, they divided Panqiao. One was at the station, and one here started to build the church. So he started a community and did the fundraising for a church. This father was very, let's say, very interested in preserving the Chinese nature of the Catholic Church. It was the generation they had been told, we are Chinese.
Yes.
So he has done a great effort to preserve its Chinese identity.
Good.
The next church in Panqiao also, that was then the Church of the Chinese Martyrs.
Wow.
Because this church doesn't exist anymore, they have been combined, and then here it became the Church of the Chinese Martyrs. So that's the story. 60 years ago, a Chinese priest started a community here in Panqiao, a new community for the Catholics. Yeah, a lot of them who had come from China, but also then for the locals. So that is, we are celebrating next month 60 years.
Wow.
60 years of the church, which I'm very proud of. Yeah.
That is something to be proud of.
Yeah,
That's great.
Yeah.
And regarding the nature of the Chinese Catholic Church, I was learning that during the Yihetuan,
That's right.
the Boxer Rebellion,
Yes.
there were many people who were killed.
Yes.
They were
That's right.
followers and priests both?
Yes.
Or?
That's right.
Wow.
In our community, there were 8 that were killed
Wow.
during the Boxer Revolution. Our religious community was founded for China. So
Okay.
the founder in 1865,
Wow.
at the time still of the Qing dynasty, he took 4 missionaries to China and started the mission there. And then, in 1900, there was a big reaction against foreigners and against Chinese.
Yeah.
So some of them were killed. Some of them escaped by the way of Mongolia and Russia and went back this way. Yeah. So there were all stories how the people exchanged. But we are especially related to that because of this 120 martyrs, the big majority.
120?
We have 120 saints here in our church. Yeah, 120 saints. Yeah.
That's
That
a
is
significant
extraordinary.
number.
It is. Yeah.
Wow.
They were beatified, canonized in the year 2000. On the 1st of October of the year 2000. So this year, that is 20 years ago.
Wow.
So the big majority, they were martyred, killed in the year 1900.
Wow.
That's the Boxer Revolution, yeah. So that has a big part of the history.
Yeah.
So that is the Boxer Revolution, and our church are very, very, very connected, yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. Thinking about that time, from 1900 until 1949.
That's right.
What was that development like?
Well, then after 1900 it turned pretty back to normal again.
Okay.
So the missionaries were more protected, and then came the end of the dynasty. But that went rather smooth.
Okay.
With the church. A big change for all missionaries in the north of China was the coming of the Japanese.
Wow.
The Japanese occupied northern China, and we Belgians, we were enemies of Japan, so we were all put into concentration camps.
Really?
All the missionaries, during the war, from 40 to 45.
Wow.
They were put into concentration camps.
Wow.
They were, treated humanely. There was, they were, but they were prisoners of war at the time. And then in 45 they were released again, could continue their ministry, but then soon the Communist Rebellion started taking power, and in 49 the government, of Chiang Kai-shek fled to China, and the new government came in power. 49. At that time we still had about 200 missionaries in China.
Wow, that's a large number.
That's a large number, yes. So they all stayed, most of them stayed, and it took 2 years before they started attacking them and then imprison them and So all of them were imprisoned. All the missionaries, they were all convicted from being, spies and so all of them, But history is very interesting. So in 52 to 55 they were imprisoned. But then in 55 an interesting happened. The president of India, Nehru, he goes to see Mao Zedong.
Yeah.
And he said, Mao Zedong, you are a great man. Absolutely. But there is one thing you have done wrong. No, I have never done. Yes, there is one thing. You put all these missionaries into jail. And the whole world is saying, but Mao Zedong, he is a saint. How can he do that? He said, let them go home, he said. It will do you and them a lot of good. And he listened.
Good.
So in 55, all the missionaries went home and came to Taiwan. So that's the beginning of my story here. So the old Chinese missionaries, they started their mission in Taiwan. Wow. So that's how we came from China, which I was not part of. But
not that old.
That's right. I came a bit later. But that's why the big increase of numbers also. Then later on I say 800, but then slowly more and more came. And the whole nature of the mission started from a very small number of foreign missionaries, Spanish missionaries, Dominicans, Spanish Dominicans, like in California. The same missionaries came here by the Philippines. They had a mission here in Taiwan 150 years ago.
Wow.
So that is that part. And then now, since the new government, that we have been part of it. And I came in 50 years ago. So I have been 50 years in Taiwan.
Wow. 1970.
70.
Since then you've been in Taiwan.
That's right, I've been in Taiwan,
Wow, you've seen a lot of changes.
I do, yes,
in Taiwanese society.
Yes, and a lot for the better, I must
good,
say,
good.
A lot for the better,
All right, that's good news.
Yes, that is,
something to be happy about.
Yes, So that was then, the church became, at the time, the church was had a lot of converts in the beginning. It was very vibrant, a lot of baptism. But then, slowly when the situation became better, more peaceful, there were fewer converts.
Okay.
So, but the work continues and is continuing until now, as it started, 60 years ago, almost 70 years ago. That's the history, short history of our church here in Taiwan.
So I'm kind of curious, what drew you to the church? Were you a young man when you joined the priesthood, or?
I come from a traditional Catholic village. From a Flemish, in northern Belgium. I grew up in northern Belgium in a traditional Catholic village. And the story of Taiwan, the story of the east of China, was very alive there. A lot of missionaries would come back, tell the story of China, but also of Taiwan. So that interested me greatly. So at one point, when I finished high school, I wrote a letter to the superior. I said, I've heard so much about the congregation, which is called Congregation of the Immaculate Heart of Mary. I would like to join this congregation. What do I do? He said, well, you first come for a weekend and have a look at us. It's going there. Which I did with a friend. I visited them. I said, it's good here. I like it here. And then I started my novitiate. That's a year of training, before my studies. Then after novitiate, I could choose or stay in Belgium or go to Holland. So I applied to go to Holland. I studied philosophy in Nijmegen, in Holland. And after that, I did a year military service, and then studied theology, and then came to Taiwan.
Wow.
That's my story, as simple as that,
That's amazing. Wow, you did a lot even before you came. Vocabulary. Boxer Rebellion. Martyrs. Catholic. Qing Dynasty. Missionary. Boxer Rebellion. Communists. Occupation.